Hi, this is Maryland Comptroller Peter Francho. I may not listen to every podcast out there, but I do listen to the Maryland Crabs.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
Look at that, man. We're back together across the table from each other. It's the dirty kitchen table.
I love these microphones. I gotta get these microphones. Your microphones are better than mine. I sound good. I sound good.
You sound sexy.
I sound good.
Yeah. Barry White.
Big white Barry White.
Hey, did you make it down to the St. Patrick's Day Parade?
I didn't.
It's not the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's just the parade.
Why? It's not called St. Patrick's Day Parade?
No, it's not. It's not called the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's called the St. Patrick's Parade because they do it the week before St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, but okay. It seems
it's a technicality, but it's the truth. But no, it was great.
I've never been. I've been here for 21 years. I've never been to the St. Patrick's Parade.
Well, it's only been here for 7, so you're off the hook for 14 of them.
I was in Manhattan. I was on my way home.
Okay. What were we up there for?
See my brother. He's a playwright up there. So we were kind of kicking around the city up there. I was out just there overnight and coming back. Or if I'd remembered that the parade was going on, then I probably would have come home earlier.
Well, he's like a big shot. He's coming down to the DC Fringe Festival.
He is actually. So my brother is younger than I am and better looking and more talented. And not that it's hard, but all those things. But he lives in Manhattan and he's a playwright up there. So he's written and produced all these plays. And one's called Before the Fall, and it's about 9/11, and it's about these people who were stuck in an office building during 9/11, right when the plane hits, and it's a kind of a character study. So it was a success up in off Broadway, of course, but he entered the Fringe Festival down here in DC, so he's coming down here in June or July, and that's what it's going to be. So it's going to be amazing.
I like Fringe Festivals.
I've never been to one.
Annapolis did it. They did it like 3 years. And I'd probably say 2 of them were really outstanding. And they're just weird. And they're very cool in a weird way.
When I think of Fringe Festivals, I just think of people with like various body piercings.
They have that. Just bizarre types of art. I know there was a guy named, I'm going to screw it up. It's either Babington Walker, or I think it's Walker Babington is his name. But he sat in the window one time drinking wine and spitting it out onto canvas. And when he was done, it was like a portrait of Lincoln.
Oh, really?
I mean, he. I
was gonna think it was performance art. I hate performance art. I find it so pretentious.
It is. I loved it.
Well, at the end he had something, so I guess I can go with that.
He also does art with like blowtorches, where he burns. He'll take a big hunk of wood or something like that, and he'll burn a thing in with a giant blowtorch or propane torch.
I don't know how I feel about that.
And why not they had burlesque. They had drag shows. It was really very cool.
That was
West Street.
Yeah, so that was like why did they stop that?
They didn't have it last year. It was too tough to control the crowd. What was happening is that they wanted to control the crowd to basically raise some money for charities and stuff like that, but you really can't prevent somebody from wanting to go into a restaurant to eat. And then they come out and you can't really isolate performance art from them. So they've got to figure a way to do it.
But I wanted to come to the parade. I generally don't like parades, but St. Patrick's Day parades are
This is great. This thing lasted just about 2 hours long, had 100 units, and John O'Leary puts it together. And, man, he runs a tight ship. He's got his marshals, which are all dressed up in, like, the tweed jackets and have green armbands and, the Irish.
The Hibernians, yeah.
Yeah. So but they keep everybody. It's like, okay, little Irish dancers, stop your dancing here. You're falling behind. Get up, I jokingly say that they've got the little cattle prod to keep them going because there's so many parades in town. Sometimes you sit there and you're watching, oh wow, there goes the fire truck, wow, and there's nothing else. And you're like, okay, well I guess that's it. So let's go get something to eat, and then there's the Corvettes come around the corner or something like, oh wait, here's the rest of it.
We do that every year, and we go up to the Christmas parade in Cape May, New Jersey for my mom's birthday. It's the first weekend in December every year, and it's all my nieces and nephews and kids, and we all go up, and my mom loves to go to this Christmas parade, and it's just agony because it's exactly what you described. It's people on either side of the street waiting, and they set up their chairs early in the morning so they don't miss a spot. So you're just elbow to elbow in freezing cold. And it's like some dancing school twirling batons, and then nothing for a half hour, and then a fire truck, and then nothing for another 40. I just hate it. We just do this all at once and then go start drinking.
I hear you, but this parade is run really well. So if you missed it, you can go to All Annapolis. We've got it we did a Facebook Live. I was perched up on the 3rd floor above the Commons looking down onto the street, which was kind of a neat way to watch the parade, which was kind of neat. And had a good time. And then they had the Shamrock the Dock afterwards, which was just the big old block party down on City Dock, which was just phenomenally successful. They had Dublin 5 performing there. They probably had 2,000 people that were just jammed in there, just dancing and drinking and just having a great time. Great event all the way around.
No incidents?
Not that I know of. I mean, I'm sure there was somebody or other that's like peeing on a dumpster somewhere. But before we get into today, listen to Peter Francho's episode. That was the one that dropped last Saturday, I think it was. Kind of interesting. Find out whether he's going to run for governor or not.
I feel like he's been running for governor for like 10 years.
I think so.
Every time that the elections are coming up, everyone turns and looks at him. He just kind of smiles and shrugs. And there you go. Not this time, huh?
That's sort of like Hogan with running for president. Hey, you running for president? I'm just going to New Hampshire.
I feel like he's been kind of out there about that. I mean, I feel like that's kind of, even Michael Steele was talking about the other night on Real Time with Bill Maher. I mean, he said that he goes, well, my governor's going to make a play for it.
I think he will. I think my prediction on Hogan is that he will jump into the primary. He will not win against Trump.
Nope.
But he will make a name for himself, and he will be recognized as the non-Trump candidate, and that will set him up for what would be 2024 or no? Yeah. 2024 run, because he's got to figure a way to be relevant for the next 2 years in between.
He's still as popular as ever, maybe more popular than ever.
He is 70 some odd percent approval.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good job for him. Figured out how to do it. But anyhow, let's get into today. We're going to talk to Jeremy Browning, who is the guy that started or resurrected the Annapolis Pride, which is the whole, I don't want to say gay resurrection, but it's the
sounds like a gay Jesus.
I don't say they had a parade. They had a march last year. They approached Mayor Buckley to see if they could do that there. And they said, absolutely, let's do it. And it's grown. I mean, they're partying at the Eastport Democratic Club. They've had Halloween parties. They're sponsoring drag brunches and drag shows and everything else. And it's so cool that Annapolis is sort of coming into its own on this. And I think it's really neat to see our society changing as opposed to, these people need to be in the closet.
We talked about that when I'm older than he is, and you're a lot older than both of us.
And shit.
So I'm just remembering when I was in high school and college, but I grew up Irish Catholic, and gays were not part
of
Bethesda. We were in that enclave. But we always said we were the Irish enclave in a sea of Judaism. But I didn't, I thought I didn't know any gay people until I worked in TV news, and I was in the minority because most people were gay. And I looked around and I'm like, not only do I know gay people here, I know gay people in my past. They were just in the closet, but it's really interesting for right now. It's just how fast this all accelerated from gay marriage to the acceptance. I mean, there's still a lot of hurdles, obviously, but for people like you and I, where we've seen it happen, it's amazing. I was talking to my kids about this the other day, saying you have no idea what it was when you were growing up, and everyone was in the closet, and you didn't know any gays except for those who were on TV, and they were, you laughed at them. Right. They were funny.
Richard Simmons.
They were punchlines.
That was about it. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get
Paul Lynde. I love Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde ruled.
Oh, what was his signature line in the? He sort of sounded like Urkel a little bit with that. How did I do that?
So I don't know.
He was the center of the what was it? Tic Tac Toe.
Yeah, he was in
Hollywood Squares.
But he was also on
Laughing.
And I don't think so. He was like on those when the variety shows were really popular in the 70s, like the Carol Burnett show and everything like that. Love Boat, and he was the voice of Templeton on Charlotte's Web.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's probably one of my favorite.
I forgot all about him. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's. We don't have Paul Lynde today because he's dead.
Which would be awesome.
He's dead, but we do have Jeremy Browning.
Next best thing.
Well, you're selling them pretty hard there.
No, he is. He's great.
He is. Let's get into it.
Whether it's Main Street, your street, or any street in the county that we all live in and love and call Anne Arundel, it's a special place. But part of living here is having a bank that provides what you need when you need it. So when your plans and dreams call for a bank, turn to us, your neighbor. We're Severn Bank, supporting the community that supports us. I'm Alan Hyatt, chairman of Severn Bank, and it's our honor to be the bank that serves the people of Anne Arundel County. One thing that we never forget is that as a member of this community, it's our responsibility to be committed to helping you and our county thrive. Like you, we live here, we work here, and we play here. Severn Bank, we're here with you.
Online at severnbank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Severn Bank is a trade name used by Severn Savings Bank.
Spring is here, and baseball season is here. Is your lawn ready for a game of catch or batting practice with the kids? Turn to the lawn and garden experts at Homestead Gardens and learn what products they recommend for a healthy green lawn. Homestead Gardens carries the widest selection of natural and organic garden solutions for a kid, pet, and environmentally safe lawn. Because lawns aren't just for looking at, they're for playing in. Visit homesteadgardens.com for weekly deals, inspiration, and more. Live life outdoors this season with Homestead Gardens, Davidsonville, and Severna Park.
Hey, we're here at the Commons with Jeremy Browning, who is the executive director, would that be the right word?
Founder and chair.
Of Annapolis Pride, which is a relatively new organization, which I am absolutely thrilled to see in Annapolis. And before we get going, I want to, it'll tie in a little bit later, but I want to tell a story about 15 years ago. I owned several travel agencies in town. My office, we went down to New Orleans and we had a dinner at a place called Lucky Chang's, and my office took me out there and they thought it would be great. They knew I hated seafood, so they were going to try to play a joke on me, whether to take me to a seafood place or to Lucky Chang's, which was hard to say, it's sort of like a cross-dressing drag bar kind of a thing. They had one in New York, and they had various people that were in various stages of transition, and they had just some people that were impersonators and everything else. It was a hysterically fun night, probably one of the best nights I've ever had. And I said, well, this is funny. I had a staff of mostly females. I said, I would like to fly some of these entertainers up to Annapolis for our Christmas show and sort of throw it back at them in front of their husbands and everything else like that. It would be great. And then I said, well, Annapolis is a little bit puckered. So I said, I'm going to just check with the places that I want to have my Christmas party and just see if they're cool with it. Because I would plan to put them up at the hotel, out on Riva Road or out at the mall. We'd bring them in a car. They would perform their show and, whatever they do. And every place said no. Chart House. I mean, we're talking private rooms, Buddies, Treaty of Paris. And I was like, wow, okay. So I had somewhat of a reputation in town. I didn't want to ruin it or, do anything. And I was like, okay, well, we went to a plan B on that year. But now you fast forward here into, now, and this is amazing that we have drag brunches. They've had 3 or 4 shows at Ram's Head with the drag shows. Annapolis Pride, the mayor is embracing not Annapolis Pride, but Pride Week, and there's going to be an Annapolis Pride parade. There's going to be all sorts of events going on, and a lot of that, most of that, I would venture to say all of that, is attributable to you.
So I think that there was a thread that just needed to be pulled, and I pulled the thread, and it all came down. But it's been really incredible to see the city, the mayor's office, all the businesses, community groups, come together and welcome us here.
I mean, I think it's fantastic that, and obviously some times have certainly changed. We've looked into, we've legalized, gay marriage, same-sex marriage. What do you think has changed? What has changed in Annapolis? And before we got on recording, we were talking about that you're a native. So you've been here for all of your 20-some-odd years as I look across the table at you. So
32.
Okay, 30. So I wasn't too far off. But, you've been here for all your 32 years, so you've seen what the town can be, what it was, and what it's looking to be.
I think the public sentiment has changed, that in general, everyone's more educated and more accepting than they were just a few years ago. And
I think that you're seeing that back 30 years ago when I was in high school, okay, there was a stereotype of...
20 years ago? 30 years ago?
Okay, all right, well... Math isn't my strong suit, so we'll just let that roll.
Well, about 10 to 15 years ago when I was in high school.
Yeah. I've got brown hair. Leave me alone, okay? But, there was a stereotype of, the gay guy or the gay woman and whatnot. And I think that we've turned around and we've seen that is totally not the case anymore.
certainly there are stereotypes of that, as there are stereotypes of you name it, whether it be, Jewish people, Italian people, whatever it is. But it's just not the case. And I think it's just an incredible societal shift that we've got.
It's been a sea change for the last, and I was thinking about this on the drive over, about those moments, whether they be incidents or movements that drive forward the civil rights of a certain group. And you think, in African-American culture, it was, the bombing in Selma, and you had Rosa Parks, and you think, in the 1970s was Cesar Chavez with the Great Boycott. But if you look at the movement in the gay community, what happened, if you think about the 70s, think about Three's Company, where, the punchline was that Jack was supposed to be gay, and he lived with two girls, and we were laughing at that. We weren't laughing with the community, so we were punching down. And I think you had several things that happened, like Matthew Shepard. The death of Matthew Shepard was a big one that brought people's attention to just the absolute oppression. And I think even through culture, because like movies and music, you had everything from, Philadelphia, I think, was a huge movie that brought that to the forefront. I think Will and Grace was another one. And I think even Ellen, like the original Ellen show, when she came out, those are all really big things. So I think someone your age came into a different world than like we grew up in, when it was, I'm a recovering Catholic, and, Catholics were not, especially Irish Catholics, were not fond of their gays. So,
I just saw Jeremy roll his eyes.
No.
Yeah.
So a lot of other people paved the way and made great strides. So now we're at a point where the community is accepting, but there was, it wasn't until the summer of 2017 that I saw a rainbow flag flying in a public area that was visible, and it was at St. Luke's Church in Eastport. And I said, that's really interesting. Like, it's the first rainbow flag I've seen in Annapolis, and it's at a church.
Let's throw that back again. The summer of 2017.
So just a few years ago.
So we have not hit the summer of 2019 yet. So this is less than 2 years ago.
Correct.
Is that the same church that had the Black Lives Matter flag that kept getting ripped down?
No, St. Luke's is in Eastport. That's the one that's in the little gully that they just did the remediation for the water. And they've been a very accepting church. They've been a great church. They host Cub Scout packs with me, and I know there's a bunch of great people that are in there. But that was the first time you really ever saw an outward.
There's the first time I remember ever seeing a rainbow flag in Annapolis. I'm sure there were others, but that was the first one that I saw.
Were you comfortable? Because my brother-in-law is gay, and he grew up in a very conservative town in Appalachia, and he told me his story, just how difficult. He never really did come out, and he's in his late 50s. For someone like you, and my daughter goes to public school, and she knew kids who were 12, 11, 12, 13 that had come out already, and they were accepted. Did you have any difficulty coming out, or was this a revelation to you?
It was certainly challenging. There was no, you didn't see it anywhere. It wasn't something that people talked about. It was just something that you didn't want to be associated with, because it was hardship, it was suffering, it was, it was not something that was normal. I think even until, somewhat recent history, it was considered a psychological issue. So it was just treated much differently. There was no gay-straight alliances in the schools. There was no, community organizations. And until Annapolis Pride, in Anne Arundel County, there was no visibility, and there's very little visibility.
Now, there used to be and I'm going to mess up the name, but I'm going to say Pride Day down at Mayo Beach Park several years ago. It was an annual thing, and it was a great family event. I had attended a couple different times for there, but that went away. I know that the leadership of that sort of just burned out on doing it, and I get how that happens. Are you taking up from where they left, or is this a totally different organization?
This is a totally different organization. I did learn about Chesapeake Pride.
That's the name of it.
Yep, Chesapeake Pride, but I never knew about it. I never attended. So I think it's in the area, that was the closest thing that we had to a Pride celebration.
Right. Now, what was the tipping point to form Annapolis Pride?
So I think when I saw the rainbow flag at St. Luke's Church in the summer, it got the wheels turning, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had more rainbow flags in Annapolis, and that anybody, especially young people that are struggling with their gender or sexuality, they would see that as a sign of hope, and that they're not alone, and that they belong in this
community. Acceptance, absolutely.
So And originally it just started as a campaign to just build visibility and community in Annapolis, through the Facebook page, and encouraging businesses and organizations to show their inclusiveness in a public way, because visibility increases safety.
Sure, without a doubt. And where do we learn more about Annapolis Pride? We'll plug this a couple times as we're talking about this, but I mean, obviously you've got a Facebook page. You can just search Annapolis Pride. And is there a website?
So there is a website.
It's a really good one too.
AnnapolisPride.org, and we're putting new information up there all the time. We have our events there. There's forms if you want to volunteer or get involved with the parade or festival. But we post a lot on Facebook, so we post all our events there and news. So that's a great way to stay in touch with us.
It really is. You're a nonprofit?
So we are seeking 501c3 nonprofit status. Currently, we have a nonprofit sponsor, which is Make Your Mark Media. Okay. So we are Make Your Mark Media doing business as Annapolis Pride until we have our own 501c3.
So if we throw money at you, it will be tax deductible at this point, but it won't be tax deductible to Annapolis Pride.
Correct. It will go through Make Your Mark Media, but donations can be made to Annapolis Pride, and you can receive a tax deductible donation form.
Now, the organization, when you started this, okay, obviously it started out as an organization of one because Jeremy saw a flag outside of the church in Eastford.
Which would be a pretty lonely parade, by the way, at that point.
How did it grow? I mean, was it organic through Facebook, just through some friends? So
it was organic, and I had, there was a small group of friends, and we really felt that there was enough of us here to build a community and to have events. We had Pomerantz Marketing made us a great logo and graphics, and we put it up on the Facebook page.
I like Pomerantz.
And it started growing interest right away. And then within a week or so, we had requested the mayor to do a proclamation to declare June Pride Month, and they said absolutely. 2 weeks after that, Claire from the Crofton area reached out to the mayor's office, and they organized a impromptu march on June 19th of 2018. And that was we marched from Main Street up to the hotel.
That horrible rainy day.
Yes, it was. It rained on our little parade, but it didn't stop us.
I do remember that day. That was a pretty miserable day, but as far as the weather goes, but it was wonderful. And we are planning a parade. I don't have the exact date. You probably do, for this June as well, in June 19. And there's going to be a whole week with a whole bunch of different events that go around that, which I'm sure are probably incredibly busy with planning at this point to figure out where it is. How big do you think your membership, and I know that's hard to say at this point, but I mean, how many supporters do you have, which might be a gauge of like how many people do you have on your Facebook page that are following you do you have a couple thousand or?
So we have over 5,000 followers on Facebook now, and the parade and festival will be held on June 29th in Annapolis. And the event is already up on our Facebook page, so you can go there and RSVP and you'll stay up to date. But I would say, Anne Arundel County has about 600,000 residents. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of members of the LGBTQ community would go to Baltimore or DC to find community. So
strength in numbers, it's a big city.
Yeah, we're trying to build community here in Annapolis. So I think there's probably a lot more that just have gone elsewhere.
I think in anything, Annapolis is a little bit different than DC or Baltimore. And just, it's not as buttoned up certainly as DC can be. It's not a big metropolitan city. It's just a different vibe in Annapolis for anything. And I would think that would carry over to the LGBTQ plus, and there's so many initials after that at this point that I lose track.
Annapolis is fairly liberal when it comes to situations like this.
It is.
And I think that it's fairly welcoming for the most part. We're a purple county, and so I'm going to be stereotypical and say that if you're conservative, that's where you're going to tend to get the pushback. And not to say all conservatives, I think you're making great inroads with that as well. But I think that, as like we said a few minutes ago, that the movement has been wildly successful for the last 10 years, even if it didn't start out as a movement in and of itself. But the acceptance and the visibility, what do you think are the challenges moving forward? I mean, because I think that we're talking about anti-discrimination laws, gay marriage. These are all things that are moving very rapidly in a positive direction. But what challenges do you still see for the community?
So I think there are still a lot of challenges. We have made a lot of progress in the last 10 years, but outside of DC and Baltimore and the larger cities,
the coast,
there still isn't, even though it might be an accepting community, there's not a lot of visibility. So for someone that's struggling, they might not know that it's an accepting area. They might not know where to find resources or to find support. So in Annapolis, if it's hard, people message the page all the time, where can I find this, or where can my 15-year-old son go? So there's still a lot of gaps that we're hoping to create safe spaces where everyone feels welcome.
Well, there have, and you've created several of them. I know that you've had several events at the Eastport Democratic Club, which I think is hysterical under some circumstances, because it's sort of become the hub for Annapolis Pride for some of the events. You had a Halloween party there, which I understand was just off the charts, incredibly fun. And so I think that, and I know you've had a couple different, I'll say, social gatherings there, and you do have them periodically, and you've got I'm assuming you've got some sort of a leadership board that's sort of helping you run, and sort of guide this whole thing as it moves through. When you started this, did you find resistance? I mean, of course, no matter what your position is, whether I say the sky is blue, there's going to be some asshole that's going to sit there and say, absolutely not, it's gray. I mean, did you find a lot of resistance when Annapolis Pride came on the scene? Thankfully,
no, we did not experience a lot of resistance. We were welcome with open arms. There was an individual that was a member of the LGBTQ community that was concerned that we would be encouraging people to be more visible, and that there would be a spike in hate crimes, and that the police department and the local government would not do anything about it. This was before Annapolis Pride ever launched on Facebook. I had already started building a relationship with the Annapolis Police Department, and I knew that they were supportive and that they would
on top of it,
protect and serve everybody. And then, the mayor's office has been extremely supportive. So I think there was a fear that the local, government here might not be supportive, but that's not the case.
That's tremendous, and I'm glad that they were false fears that your friend had expressed there. So that's very encouraging for the city. Are you expanding out? I mean, you mentioned you were in Crofton for the parade. Are there plans for expansion into other parts? I mean, obviously you're centric to Annapolis.
So yeah, we're centric to Annapolis, but I really see our audience to be anybody that lives, works, or plays in Annapolis, that visits Annapolis. So that stretches out to most of Anne Arundel County and parts of the Eastern Shore, parts of PG County. So a lot of people that are coming to our events are coming from, even some of them are coming from the Bowie area, they're coming from Queen Anne's County, some are even coming from Howard County. So your options right now, or in the past, have been DC or Baltimore. So now This is another safe space that people can come, and we're really working with businesses and community groups to welcome and to show that they're inclusive. And a lot of them have hosted events with us. They've said they're going to have a flag out for Pride Month.
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting when I owned several travel agencies in a prior life. And one of the organizations that I affiliated with is with the LGBTQ was not around at that point, but Travel Association. And we had received one large account from a travel manager who happened to be gay, and he wanted to deal with people that were there. We weren't a gay travel agency per se. I mean, wasn't a specialty that we did, but we were certainly very friendly and open and accepting of pretty much every lifestyle. And it was funny as you mentioned, seeing the flag in the church, when we had the sticker that we put on the door, we found that we did get a lot of clientele. I mean, it was almost like putting this giant searchlight for like the Annapolis Film Festival, out there. And it's important to be at a place that you're comfortable with. I mean, we had agents that were very in tune with, the needs and the desires of, how the community travels. I mean, from a travel perspective, okay, typically you don't have children. I know obviously that there's adoption and everything else. There's a little bit more expendable income that a couple may have and everything else, and they just travel. They like the experiences a little bit more than the destinations and stuff. So it was just very interesting to see how that all played out there. One of the questions I get on Eye on Annapolis and actually through our Facebook page, All Annapolis, is where are the, quote, good gay bars in Annapolis? And, I can sit there and say that we don't have any, quote, gay bars in Annapolis.
Can I guess? Tsunami?
Yeah.
You just nodded. Yeah.
Tsunami's been popular for a long time. And before I was of age, I know they had a very popular Wednesday night gathering. And it kind of faded away by the time I was of age.
Well, Tsunami also was the one that had they tried to drag brunch way back when for a hot minute that wasn't very well accepted. Oh. And that was probably back in 90.
Yeah, right there. That's your problem.
98. But, I don't think we have what we consider a gay bar. I mean, you go into D.C. and there's, a number of them. Into Baltimore there is as well. But we certainly do have a lot of places. Where would somebody feel comfortable eating and drinking, coming from your perspective? I mean, I do recommend Tsunami, and I do recommend Lemongrass. I think that, Preserve is another one down on Main Street. And there's plenty that not that you would feel out of place. I would probably say there may be 2 or 3 that you'd be like, okay, well, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
So there's, I would say most of the bars and restaurants are, I would say, allies. The challenge is that, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community and you're looking to socialize with your peers, it's hard to find a place like, where is everybody hanging out? And it's sort of, everyone's dispersed. So I would, like you said, Tsunami is friendly, Metropolitan, Sailor. There's lots of friendly places to go.
You're not on the payroll of the Mirror, are you?
No. Now they've been the most outwardly, Sailor has a rainbow flag flying all year round. It's not even Pride Month and the rainbow flag's out. So I'd say it's a good ally establishment.
Well, what I'm kind of hearing is that the community is really sort of homogenized into, the LGBT community is really sort of homogenizing into the larger community that, this section of the LGBT community likes Acme because it's rowdy and they, okay, so don't make the,
but that brings me up to a question I've always had, because when you look at, if, you're taking a group together, that, community, so whether it be the Black community, the Hispanic community, or Latino community, I think that the LGBTQ community is very similar to the Latino because they're seen as a monolithic group from the outside. So you say the Latino, the Hispanic community in the country, but they're very different. Salvadorians are very different than the Cubans, who are very different than the Mexicans, who are very different than the Dominicans. They have different culture, they have different customs, they have different foods, they have all these things. So when we look at the LGBTQ community who are banded together for acceptance, but internally they have different interests, a gay community within that versus the lesbian community versus the trans community. So to say, do all these segments of the movement, are there any differences between them in so much as the discrimination they face or the goals that they have or even the things that they like?
There's certainly a wide spectrum of differences and experiences that people have in the community and different levels of privilege. That's without a doubt. But I think right now there's still a need and a desire to have a dedicated space, or gay bar, if you will, in the city. I think there's a lot of people that would be really happy to see that. And like I said, if you look at the number of people that live outside of or nearby Annapolis, and the number of people that drive through Annapolis in the summer to go to the beach,
sure,
let's give them a reason to stop and let's build a safe space here.
All right, so if anybody's got some cash burning their holes in their pockets looking to invest in a new bar or restaurant, give me a call and I'll put you in touch with Jeremy and we'll get it going. I agree. I think that everybody does need a place, but I also think that I don't think you find Latinos or Hispanics that are going into traditionally we'll say non-Hispanic or Latino place feel uncomfortable, which I think says something a little bit about the acceptance of Annapolis.
I'll say that about the Ebb Tide. I've always said that. If the Ebb Tide, which is the biggest dive in town, but you go there and you have people who own sailboats, like all the Sperry people, and then you have, the working class white people, then you have the black folks from town come in and they're there, and the Latinos are shooting
white
pool.
collar, blue collar, no
everybody.
collar. It's all.
That is Ellis Island right there.
It's all there. Ebb Tide, do you like the Ebb Tide?
I've actually never been.
Oh, you're missing out, my friend.
I've heard it's
what kind of loser are you here, man?
That is my favorite dive in town.
Do you like a good burger?
Yes.
Bacon burger?
Sure.
Ebb Tide, got to go. And they're closing at the end of January of 2020, so you got to.
I'm in denial about that
time.
You got some time, but you got to get in there before they close and try one of their burgers.
Hey, do you know what? If they're closing, that leaves a space right there. That's what we're talking about, right?
Ooh,
keep the chef.
Good point. Yeah. Good point. And they the lease won't let them be anything but a dive bar.
Is it really?
Yeah, the owners. That's the deal.
I've actually been losing sleep about that.
And it's I was talking to Ashley yesterday, and she said that it's in there. And what happens if it needs a lot of repair and constant, like, sort of plugging the holes in the walls and everything else. Yeah. And they said that they couldn't level it and build it up without having to build with the new building codes, and that's too expensive to support what the lease is calling for.
If you go in the pool room, the slate floor is so bad that you trip the whole way. It's great. I love that place.
That just has nothing to do with the consumption of your alcohol?
I am actually a good-looking person in that place. It doesn't happen anywhere else but there.
Yeah, but I mean that may not be a bad idea. It's a good idea, Tim.
I've never had to go somewhere as a straight person and think I never think about my experiences in the terms of being straight or being a white guy. I've never thought about it. I mean, when they talk about privilege, I'm not being super liberal here, but I was just thinking about that. Is that when you think about a gay bar or about a gay cruise or something like that, I've never had to think of any of my experiences in terms of my sexuality. That's got to be something that is when that's your identity. That's being straight's not my identity. Being white's not my identity, but the perception outside is that is. So whereas for I think whether you want it to be or not, especially when you're in a prominent position and founding this group, is that something that ever you're conscious of, or is it something that bothers you, or is it?
Absolutely, it's something I'm aware of. So everyone has a level of privilege. So I know that I can walk into any place in Annapolis and no one's going to turn their head, but that's not the case for everybody. So I feel like I need to use my privilege to lift others up and give them a voice where they might not have one.
I'll tell you, we did one of my favorite podcasts we did was with, and I don't know whether you may know of him, but Brittany Girldale up in Brooklyn Park. And he is a gay guy that cross-dresses. He said ultimately he would like to, transform, get a sex change into a woman. But he is just, he's got so many problems. I mean, it goes back to abuse when a child and the whole 9 yards. And he's on disability. He dances out on Ritchie Highway and thongs and everything else. And we talked with him, and I absolutely just love this guy, okay, because he has such a verve for life.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care. And here's a guy that's got all these problems, and gosh knows how much is swimming around in his head. But and I don't say he doesn't care in a mean way, but the fact that I look at you and go, "Oh, you're a freak. You're dancing in women's clothes in the middle of the highway," it has zero effect on him. And I'm thinking, that has got to be a great way to go through life to a certain degree.
Well, to be that comfortable with yourself, it's got to be amazing.
And I mean, he's just great. I mean, I run into him. He's always like, "Oh, hey, baby." It's people look at me going like, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Oh, this is Dale. He's great. He's great." But it's got to be tough to just to sit there and do that. And it's got to be great to be able to sit there and see that it's changing, and it's changing very, very fast over the years. I know. Do you remember Scott Bowling?
Mm-hmm. Passed away. Yeah.
When. Let's see, Maryland started, I'm trying to remember the timeline, but Maryland at one point recognized same-sex marriage, but you couldn't get married in Maryland. So he and his husband were married in D.C., and they were first in line on the first day to get recognized as a same-sex couple in Maryland. So he's got certificate number 1, if you will, to do that. And then they had another local wedding when they ultimately were able to legalize it here, a second pseudo wedding with a reception and everything else. And it was just such an important part. I mean, I think you sit there and you look at what we've changed.
But let's think about what happened to him before he died. Is that he was running,
he was running for political office in Ward 3, and there were
ugly, just hideous flyers that were put out.
Hide your wife, hide your husband, hide your children.
Everyone knew who did it, and everyone knew who was involved in that.
This is a gay guy, and he's hunting your children. And it was horrible. And there was a little bit of an FBI investigation and everything else that went in there.
Which is ridiculous because, again, we all knew who it was, and no one says it out loud, but everyone knows who that was. And there were people who are still in office now who knew about it. And they pretended they didn't, and everyone knows that.
That's the whole all's fair in politics.
Look what's happening to Cory Booker right now. Cory Booker, he's running for president, and there's the rumors out there, and people say ugly rumors going that he's gay. I don't know if he is or not, but when you say it's ugly, is it ugly? But when you hold it over someone's head. So we think we have moved forward a lot, but I think that you still have the issues that are lingering there, especially with, my father-in-law just passed away, and he's a great guy. I love him to death, but he's a generation that he couldn't wrap his head around people being gay or lesbian, let alone trans. That for him was just too much. I think for the older generations, you're just not going to be able to do it. It's just time.
It is. I know I've got a good friend of mine that is probably approaching 60 and was married and has a couple kids, was divorced, has realized for a good long time, probably a lot longer than he remembers that he remembers it, that he was gay. And just recently he came out. I keep joking with him that his next Christmas present is going to be the coming out tour with the dates and the people that he did. But and he said it was the most liberating thing to do, to be able to do that, to tell the ex-wife, absolutely terrifying to tell your kids, who were the most accepting of everybody. The good friend from college that was that I sat there and pulled the old macho, the gays and the fags, and all of that it was just the most accepting, liberating thing, and I have never seen him happier in his life in the last 2 years than he's continued on his coming out tour. When he sees people, we went to a high school reunion, and it was like, hey, this is me, and everyone's like, this is great.
How old were you? Do you mind asking?
I was 22 when I came out, and I was still finishing school.
But did you always know?
I always knew. And what I feel that people don't tell you when you come out is that you have to come out over and over and over again. So because I was
you get sick of it. You have like a script.
They don't have that section of the classifieds in the Capitol.
My comfort with it changed based on the group or the circumstances. So each semester you had 5 new classes and a whole bunch of new people, and it was like, oh, okay, so now I get to come out all over again. And in some cases I never did because it wasn't really relevant, but your comfort level is...
Again, because I've never had to tell anyone, again, we're talking about that, I've never had to go, by the way, I'm straight, just so you know. I would never introduce myself, go, well, I work here, my family, and I'm straight, just so you know. But that's something expected out of the LBGTQ community.
Not necessarily. Now I don't even think about it. You come out without saying I'm gay. You come out by just being yourself.
Through actions
and saying, it comes out in conversation because you're saying I'm going with my partner to go see his parents. Or, you don't even think about it.
Right. When I talked about the podcast, I said something once. I said, well, I'm working with my partner on this podcast, and I didn't realize till a week later, I'm like, oh, she thinks I'm gay.
Yeah.
I can do so much better than John.
The code words. It's funny. I think that a lot of people are getting, colorblind to black or white. You don't really see it and everything else. Well, some people do and some people don't. It was funny. I went to, do you ever go to any of the gay bars in D.C.?
I haven't been in a while.
Okay, Nelly's?
Of course, Nelly's.
Okay. Is that notorious?
It's a fun bar. It's a fun sports bar, and if Nelly's wants to open one here, we'd be really happy.
Well, my daughter was at a show at the 930 Club, and it was some god-awful band that I didn't want to see. So I said, okay, well, I'll just go and have dinner and drinks and whatnot. And I walked, as a straight guy, I walked into Nelly's. I sat down, and I was like texting or tweeting somebody that I was there, and I totally didn't recognize. And then somebody says, "So why are you in like this gay bar?" And I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, Oh, how about that? Yeah, it's all, I had no clue.
One of the best bars, frankly.
And it was great. I mean, it had a very good burger. Everything was friendly. It was awesome. I was incredibly entertained in the men's room because they had...
Okay, let's be careful here.
Yeah, here's where it goes downhill. No, in the urinals, they had like little soccer nets for those little deodorant things. You know, the deodorants they put in. And it had a little soccer net with a ball hanging down on a string. So, as any guy knows, when there's something floating around in the toilet, you take a name for it.
Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast, by the way.
I'm sure probably turned around and cut down their maintenance costs and their cleaning costs incredibly. Yeah, the room got awfully quiet with my urinal talk. So okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, I think that I think people are starting to get colorblind, and as you said, I mean, there's no need to come out. I mean, that's Hi, my name is Jeremy Browning, CPA, or whatever is fine. I mean, there's no reason to put that out. I mean, I don't care. I mean, if I've got an interest in you romantically, then that's a conversation we need to have, but not in day-to-day conversation. I mean, what's it matter?
So, what do you see for the future of this? So, you have your first parade coming up. Well, break down the parade.
Second parade.
Second. I'm sorry. What are we going to be taught? What's the parade? I didn't go last year because it was raining.
So I guess last year was a march. So this will be our first official LGBTQ Pride parade.
So it's not as aggressive as because marches mean you're going up there with gritted teeth, and this one you're like, all right, we're more laid back.
I guess I see what you're saying. So this is a celebration. This June actually marks the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots that occurred in New York City, which was the many people consider as the beginning of the gay rights movement or the LGBTQ rights movement. So this is
hold on. Let's take this quick because I just learned about them last year. I'd never heard about that. Tell us about that.
So there was a gay bar in the West Village called the Stonewall Inn, and they were being repeatedly harassed and discriminated against and beaten up by the police. And this was an uprising to say, hey, look, we're here and we deserve to be here, and we're not going to take this anymore. So that was the beginning of the, what many consider as the beginning of the LGBTQ rights movement. And that was 50 years ago in June. So we have we've come a long way since then. So it's a time to celebrate. It's a time to reflect on where we still need to go. For Annapolis, because it's the first time, it's an opportunity for us to connect with the rest of the community and say, hey, we're here, we're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your family. Please come out and support us.
One thing that, and you talk about the supporters, I mean, it's not necessarily, when you have the parade, I mean, it's not going to be a bunch of, necessarily, gay men and women or trans men and women and everything else. I mean, it's the supporters. I mean, and again, you look at your families and whatnot, and I'm constantly amazed at today's youth as how accepting. I know my girlfriend has a daughter, and she has a friend that was, transitioning or trying to figure out, what was, and the question I said, well, and it had a human name. It was like an animal name. It was like, okay, like cheetah. So is cheetah a man or a boy or a girl? And the answer was, well, what's it matter? And it really got us thinking. It's like, wow, okay, valid point from a 17-year-old. And I think that's great that you sit there and see that. I mean, I think there obviously are some problems in high schools and whatnot, but I think it's getting a lot better, a lot more accepting than it was. And I think that's good. I think the high schools now have adopted the I don't want to screw up the name, but Global Citizen curriculum that they tested up at Arundel High, which is now going to be required of every freshman coming in starting next year. And it's more acceptance and inclusion of everybody, and that goes into
And there's pushback to that too. Mm-hmm. I mean, you saw that a
little bit. There's a flyer saying that it's trying to indoctrinate into that left wing Main Street media agenda, but and everybody that's been through the program up at Arundel High and the people that have seen it have all said, no, it's great. And it's not necessarily about any kind of an agenda. And it's just something, I think it's a message that needs to be reinforced. And hopefully they'll get rid of the program in 4 years because it will have been so successful, and we're beyond that. I mean, right now we're living in a very weird time where, vitriol and insults are de rigueur, certainly on Twitter, and it's showing. And I think it's time that we do something with that. How many people do you expect in the parade?
I have no idea. I hope a whole bunch.
What's it cost to be in the parade?
So for nonprofits, it's $75, and for business,
okay, we haven't made a profit yet, have we, Tim?
No.
So $75.
The opposite of a profit.
For nonprofits, it's $75. For profit, it's $150.
Okay.
There's opportunities to sponsor the parade and festival starting at $500. So for $500, you get either the parade or festival. For $1,000, you can have both. And then there's some other levels beyond that.
Okay. What's the festival going to entail? Do you know?
So it's going to be similar in scope to the First Sunday Arts Festival.
Okay.
So we'll have some vendors and exhibitors that support the LGBTQ community. We'll have hopefully some entertainment mixed in there. And
where it'll be down at City Dock?
It'll be on West Street.
Okay, so then what's your parade route going to be?
So we haven't submitted our permits with the city, but it looks like it will be from the West End to Calvert Street.
And that's pretty much similar to the Labor Day Parade or Memorial Day Parade, where it just sort of comes down and takes a left on Calvert Street and disappears into the...
Yep, and then the festival will be right there. So the parade will finish where the festival
on the first block of West Street.
Yep, all on the same day.
Free to attend?
Free to attend.
What band would you like to have play? Who are your bands? Who are the bands that Jeremy Browning likes?
I couldn't tell you. I have...
No?
That's not my specialty.
Fair.
I hope we have a great variety of entertainment of local artists, from the community. I think that would be wonderful.
And I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. I mean, I think it's certainly the arts community that's here in Annapolis is very supportive of that and everything else. So, well, I'll tell you what. I think everybody needs to go check out AnnapolisPride.org. Find them on Facebook. Find out all the stuff that they're up to, and it's only going to grow. Which is really kind of neat. And I think that one of the things that drew me to Annapolis way back when was its inclusivity and its casualness of everything. And I think that you've gone a long way to lead that on another group of people that need to be included in any number of different ways. Jeremy did bring us some Annapolis Pride magnets to go on the back of the car, and I'll put mine on a little bit later on today. But I am an incredible supporter of bringing this in. I thank you for spearheading it and doing it. I think your insight is invaluable. I think well on your way to resurrecting what was the remnants, I guess, of Chesapeake Pride. And I know that 3 or 4 of my friends that are involved with Annapolis Pride directly are thrilled. So I got kudos to you. That's for sure.
Well, we're just getting started, and we're excited to be here in the community and be welcomed by so many.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
We sound like 2 goofy straight guys that were just finally eager to understand all the questions that we've always wondered. We sounded a little embarrassing.
To a point. For me, anyhow, it was walking a sort of like a tightrope trying to figure out, okay, I want to make sure I don't offend, but,
every day now with everybody.
I know.
It is. If I'm at work and I'm showing something to a woman on the computer, she's like, "Can you show me this?" I will seriously always say, "Let me know if I'm crowding you or making you." And they're like, "You're fine." I'm like, just let me know. I am so paranoid.
Yeah, it's welcome. But I mean, I just am so thrilled that Annapolis and then the society in general is really moving so forward and so progressive. With the acceptance. I mean, we certainly have a lot of ways to go in terms of race and actually the LBGTQ plus all those letters that are.
I didn't want to say this in the interview. They got to come up with a new acronym. I guess not even an acronym. They got to come up with some new name. LBGTQ. It's just even he's kind of like would stumble a couple times. They need a new one.
Teresa's daughter had a chart she made for something on all of the different, I think, we talked a little bit about it, but all the different sexual combinations. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you start out there and it's like, okay, what were you born with below your belt? Okay, here. So now do you feel that do you feel like you're a male or a female? Or do you feel like you're this and that? And are you attracted to the same sex, different sex, non-sex? And it went out like this crazy color wheel, like you're picking out paint chips at a hardware store.
Millennials.
And I was just like, this is way beyond my pay grade to understand that. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I don't care what you're into, or that's great. If it makes you happy, that's the most awesome thing in the world. And I think we just need as a society to move on. I mean, I don't need the label that you're gay, you're white, you're black, you're straight, you're trans, who cares?
They just need a better name, I think, just from the marketing side.
I agree. It's just too many letters.
I got to think about it every time. And I know he was thinking about it every time, but it's a great organization, and the parade sounds like it's going to be great. I'm actually going to go.
It will be. And he left swag with us.
I'm going with my brother-in-law and my brother-in-law.
There you go. I've got my Annapolis Pride magnet on the back of my car. Mm-hmm. And I drank my hot chocolate yesterday out of my Annapolis Pride mug. And I kept the Pride mug because I didn't want to give it to you.
I don't drink hot beverages. I think everyone knows that about me. I don't drink coffee or tea, so have it. And I gave up Diet Coke. I've been Diet Coke free for 7 weeks now.
How's that going?
Pretty well, actually. I Jones from, like today I was jonesing a little bit, but I was drinking like 20 ounces, like 3 bottles a day, maybe more.
Wow.
I had a splitting headache after quitting for like 10 days straight from the caffeine or the lack of caffeine.
Huh.
But yeah, I feel that's the only thing that I've given up and felt better almost immediately. Even when I quit smoking, like it took me a year, and I'm like, I don't feel any better. I knew I was healthier, but when I quit Diet Coke, I felt better the next day, except for the headache, and that went away.
Good deal. Well, to Jeremy Browning, thank you very much for coming in. I think it was very informative, and I am excited, like you said, for everything's going. Oh, and one of the episodes that we got coming up is the Baysox, and
you got a bunch of stuff coming up.
We do. We've got the Baysox. We've got an episode that will be coming out in the next. It may already be out if I get my act together on the Maryland Black Bears, which is a minor league hockey team we've got here, which I didn't realize we had for a while.
So you might be time traveling. You might be hearing about this, yet it's already out.
That's true. Go back to yesterday and listen to it. Mm-hmm. But the Baysox, they've got a Pride night coming up, and they also have a drag night, and it's going to be the very first drag night that a minor league ball club has done in the nation. So it's kind of interesting. They're very excited about it.
That's awesome.
So I think that's great. And Jeremy's, we've got them in touch, and Jeremy is with, working with them and putting it all together. So that'll be a good time. Jeremy, thank you again very much. Look forward to the Baysox episode. Go back to yesterday, or maybe it's today. I don't know. And check out the Maryland Black Bears. And we've got a bunch more. We got Key School that's still hanging out there. We've got a couple more things that we need to check on a legal aspect on that before that goes out.
Yeah, we've been very careful with that one. And actually, I listened to that a couple times, and it's a very powerful one.
Yeah, it's not the best audio. And unfortunately...
No, it's pretty good.
Well, the one victim was coming off of a real bad bout of bronchitis, so there was some coughs and stuff like that.
Nah, it was fine. I listened to it twice.
But it was an emotional. It was an episode that really affected me, and I think it's going to affect everybody else when that comes out. But we'll make sure you get plenty of notices to when that comes out.
As a lapsed Catholic, it was a familiar story to me.
Well, that would wrap it up for us about this week. How do you get a hold of us and stuff?
Well, you can email us at info@themarylandcrabs.com, or you can go to themarylandcrabs.com to see all of our previous episodes, listen to us there. Of course, we want you to find us on Apple Podcasts or Google Play. And you're going to want to subscribe to us, because that way every week whenever a new episode comes out, or every time a new episode comes out, it's delivered right to your device, and you don't have to go and download it manually.
And while you're there, you want to make sure that you leave us a review or a rating if you can.
Please do. It does help us out. It helps people find our podcast, because the algorithms put our podcast in front of people who might like it but have never heard of us, which is frankly hard to believe.
That's right. And then the next person that you see, either walking down the street or maybe working next to you, just tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, check out the Maryland Crabs podcast. And it won't look too creepy, I promise.
No. And we got a Facebook group. We have a group Facebook page. We're on Twitter at MD Crabs Podcast. And actually, I am starting to not miss Twitter. Like, I still kind of lurk there using our account. I read Twitter, but I was really missing commenting, and I'm at the point where I don't miss that now. And actually, I skipped a few days with actually reading anything.
That's sort of like
the world didn't end.
That's sort of like me with Facebook. I'm pretty close to over.
Yeah, I'm done with Facebook. Facebook's stupid. You people have to get a lot more interesting. And I mean, you people, I mean all the people I'm friends with.
Hear that, Mom?
Yeah. Step it up, Ma.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
This has been the Maryland Crabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.